Hey all, Simone here. I just wanted to tell you about a story that I heard about today, or that I talked to today, and I thought I'd seen it all, but this kind of took the cake. So I talked to this newer client of mine, and he's got an 8-figure business already. Things on paper look pretty good, but then underneath you start digging and you realize their team is not performing, stuff is not getting done, the clients are upset because things don't get delivered when they think they should get delivered, or when they got promised it got delivered. Sales aren't happening and the sales team is just useless. They're waiting for things to get handed to them. They're not really performing themselves. They're not really, hey Mike, they're not really go-getters, which a sales team should be. And the culture is totally toxic. That you have all this backbiting going on, drama. There's a lot of cancers in the organization that are just spreading all over the place. And my client, he's tried everything. He's read books, he's YouTubed stuff, he's been doing all this stuff to help try to fix it. But in the end, he just kept feeling like he was stuck and he couldn't really change things. And he wasn't executing on things, right? It's great to get all this education and learn all this new stuff, but if you don't execute on it, it's kind of a waste of time. So I was asking him, how come you don't really do anything about this? And he said, I just got discouraged because I tried all these things and nothing worked. I've tried it all. And he wasn't sure if he actually knew enough to get this going on his own, if he could do this on his own, so he did nothing. So every week in his business, literally he's leaving millions of dollars on the table. That's really what we're talking about. I'm not making this up. So his cost is up, his profit is down, and the drama is up. So how's that work, right? Not really that great. So here's the problem with all of this stuff. When you're doing new things, when you're implementing new things, when you want people to change, if you're the leader of the bunch, you have to go first. You guys have heard it, I'm sure. Leaders go first. So it's kind of, he kept telling people he was going to do things differently. He kept telling people that things would change, but then, hey Alicia, and then nothing changed and nothing got done differently. So they didn't think they had to do anything differently either. So, when he wanted to work with me, he was kind of doing it the same way. He wasn't really showing up. He wanted things to be differently, but he wouldn't show up. And honestly, in my company, that doesn't fly. So we had a big come to Jesus, and I had to say, hey, so what's going on here? You're telling me you want these things, but you're not showing up for it. When we do agree on things, you're not doing it. And he just kind of crumbled and admitted he was just simply afraid. He was really afraid of this big change. And I was like, what the heck? What are you afraid of? This can only get better. Right now, you're losing millions every month. And he said, I'm afraid to try something new because so many things I've tried failed. I'm concerned and worried that people will be laughing at me. I'm also concerned about, what will happen if this actually works, because then we'll be getting all this new work and all these new clients, and can my team execute, right? That's another problem, that fear of success. And, he'd never really thought about it, but he also really had to admit that for this to work, he would have to change, like internally. He would have to own a new identity. He would have to become a different leader and show up very, very differently. And he was afraid he didn't know how. So it's kind of this funny thing, when the pain, it's oftentimes much more comfortable to just keep sitting in the pain and in the suffering and be incredibly uncomfortable, instead of making this bigger step into change and trying something new and being challenged by something new, which for a lot of people that's much harder. So it's kind of like, the devil, you're gonna go that way. You don't want to go with this thing that you have no idea what the outcome is. So it's the fear of the unknown, the fear of is that going to affect him, and that kept him really stuck. So I asked, when we're thinking about this, what the costs are that you're not doing, that you're not addressing all these things. Even though you don't know how, there's many ways you could figure this out, but you're not showing up for it, you're not addressing these things. How big of a check do you have to write fear? So, hey Jeanette, So that's kind of a big one, right? Think about, like, yes, you'd have to put in effort. Yes, you'd have to show up differently. Yes, there might be some things you're going to fail at, but how big of a check do you want to write fear? How much is this costing you that you're not addressing this stuff? So he got it. He really got it. He started doing the work. And, you know, first it was kind of in fits and starts. It was going perfectly by any stretch of the imagination. But once he actually put one foot in front of the other and started moving forward, he started catching some momentum, things started working, he started seeing results. And then, of course, as you gain momentum, it's amazing because you can feel the change and it feels really good. And suddenly, guess what? As he was changing internally and as he was changing his practices, suddenly it wasn't all on him. He wasn't the guy who was driving this whole boat anymore. I mean, maybe he was leading it, but the people were doing the work, right? His team was actually on the same page with him, owning their outcomes, being follow-throughers instead of constantly being micromanaged. This client satisfaction went way up, costs came down, of course that means profit went up, and he could really focus on what he should be doing, which is leading the company, building relationships, coming up with the money to expand, all that stuff that actually really means being a leader. And what it meant to him personally is suddenly he could breathe. All that stress, anxiety, anger, he was losing it kind of a lot at his people because he was under so much pressure. All that suddenly melted away and he could really focus on driving the results and becoming a much better leader, and he felt much better. So suddenly he wasn't just feeling like he was in the grind constantly, but he could actually enjoy the journey and be that CEO who loves what he's creating. It's not just, I mean, when you think about it, if you don't love your every day, if you don't love the journey, if you don't love the path of this, if you're just going for the outcome, you know, that one day when you're gonna suddenly get millions of dollars because somebody's buy you out, or you're getting that fat paycheck at the end of the year, whatever it is, but that's like one little thing that doesn't happen that often. So you've got to enjoy the ride. So that was huge for him. And now with all those new things implemented, they're in a really great groove. Things are getting accomplished, people are productive. And guess what? When people are productive, they're happy generally. That kind of one goes with the other. Because when you feel productive, you feel like you're contributing, and that really satisfied that human need of contribution, and that makes you happy. And when you're happy, you're more productive. So you have that really nice cycle going on. And all that is happening for him. So more money, more fun, more impact. So I would like to ask you, you know, where are you stopping yourself? Where is fear getting in your way of making changes that you know would really get you so much more outcome? So this week, pay attention to where you're stopping yourself, where you're playing small, where you're going for the easy route instead of doing something new or trying something that you haven't done before. And, you know, same thing as always, same thing that got you here is not getting you to the next level. If you want to find out more about this, go to bulletproofstartups.com, bulletproofstartups.com. Check out the new training we just put up, and you even get a chance to apply for a call with me. So I hope you guys are having a fantastic week, and I will talk to you soon.